Hey everybody, just Jesse here, welcoming you back into my garage, my man cave, for another day of accountability. Today is Monday, it's August 24th, the year 2020, and I read through 1 Thessalonians chapter 3 today. Now, that chapter talks about inner circle and how Paul's team really represented him in Thessalonica. So, have you ever been told not to come back for any reason, like don't come back or else? Whatever reason it may be, that's not important. But what about like when in the movies someone isn't allowed somewhere, they're told they're not to come back, or they'll face certain death or whatever. What do they do when they're in fear of being caught? Well, in all the movies I've seen, they've used a disguise, and they go and do their business, right? I don't know about you, but those are the movies I've seen where they're told that and they still show up. So that's kind of like what Paul did in Thessalonica. He knew that if he had returned, he'd most likely be killed, so he sent in his disguise, Timothy. You see, Timothy is a key player in Paul's inner circle. He's, I don't know, I guess you'd say one of Paul's aces in his sleeve. So Paul's potential multiplied because of people like Timothy. Now, Timothy did exactly what Paul would have done if Paul were there himself. So let's see through the different verses of 1 Thessalonians chapter 3 what Paul did when he sent Timothy. So we see that in verse 2, Paul sending Timothy gave the Thessalonians strength and encouragement. So they knew that Paul was going to do something great. They didn't know if Paul was coming or if he was sending somebody, but they knew that they would hear from Paul. And what Paul did was he sent Timothy, and that gives provision or provide. Now in verse 3, Timothy worked to rescue those that might fall away, knowing that there just may be some people that were like, I guess Paul could make it, and so they put their faith in the wrong thing. They put their faith in Paul instead of in God. So Timothy worked on that in verse 3, and that shows that Timothy was protecting the cause. Now in verses 4 and 5, we see that Timothy worked to ensure that the work was not being done in vain. So what Timothy did there was just making sure that it wasn't just doing it for naught. And so that shows us preserve. Verses 6 and 7 say how he motivated and cheered them on to grow, and that shows promotion. And that's something that as leaders and as Christians we all need to be doing. We all need to be promoting other people to step up and do the right thing, and that's what our life is about. And we can see that verses 6 through 8 show that Timothy reported to Paul how the Thessalonians' faith has been flourishing, which means that he presented them. He talked him up to Paul. He said, Paul, these people are growing. These are people that are on fire, and that just shows through the Thessalonians. Lastly, but most importantly, we see that Timothy led the way in praying for what the Thessalonians still lacked. And that's huge because people don't always know what they need until you show them what they need, you know? And so we see that with Peter leading the way in praying for them, that prayer is the key of that section. And we can see that in verses 9 and 10. So those are just a couple of things that Paul did for the Thessalonian people without even being there. He did all of this under disguise of Timothy. Now, the church leaders that were out to kill Paul never knew the difference, never knew that Paul was there. Paul was there in spirit with Timothy. Paul sent in his right-hand man, and Timothy really knocked it out of the park. So that's something that we need to remember when we are hanging out with people. We need to know that we need to choose our inner circle wisely. We need to know that whoever goes in our place on our behalf would do exactly what we would do, and we need to stick by those people. We need to just watch out for the fair weather friends who are just there for the moment and don't care about anything but themselves, and really what we need to be doing for them is praying for them. So I hope that 1 Thessalonians 3 really spoke to you like it did to me today. I really enjoyed reading it, and I hope that you will go and read it for yourself. If what I spoke about today was interesting to you and you think that somebody in your inner circle might need to hear it, go ahead and share the video. I always tell you every single time to share the video with people who may need to hear it. And I always like to see your guys' reactions and interactions with me, so always put the thumbs up if you liked it, and leave me comments. I love to read those, and I'll even comment back to you. So if you've come across my video and you don't know what I'm about, what this is all about, and you want to know more, this is just my way of being accountable to God. I couldn't find accountability that would reach me on my level, and so I reached out to God, and God told me to get in the Word every day and then make a video showing what you've learned every day. And so whether nobody ever sees this or whether everybody sees it, that's not for me to decide. That's not for me to judge. I'm just doing this to be fervent in what God asks and to be in the Word every day. So if you like what I'm doing and you want to see more, by all means subscribe and hit the bell, and every time I post a video you'll be notified of that. So as always, I end with I hope that your guys are being safe, and I hope that you go and grow, and as always, God bless.